You are now tuned into Virtually Impossible Presents Lazy Learning Land podcast, where we teach teachers how to be lazier yet more effective to increase student performance but decrease teacher burnout and stress. I'm S.Dot, your hostess that always gives you the mostest while doing the least. Also known as the queen of working and not working. With over 15 years of experience working at the hood schools, and still I thrive. Today's episode is sponsored by Broken Built on TikTok, where you can get all of your healthy doses of mental, physical, and emotional health tips and tricks. She does the research so you don't have to. Go follow Broken Built on TikTok for all your mental, physical, and emotional health needs. Now, for today's episode. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Lazy Learning Land podcast. I am S.Dot. When I tell you I have a great episode for you today titled, Don't Be a Fool, Post Your Classroom Rules. Now, you guys want to stay put to the very end because as your host, I'm going to let you into my game room and I'm going to let you know the golden rules that I actually post in my classroom. But before we get into what I do, I'm going to give you the science behind why I do, what I do, when I do, how I do, what I do, so you can do what I do and it can help you too. Boo. So for my trusty dusties, by now you may know that I barely escaped my first 90 days as a first year teacher. And if this is your first episode or you did not listen to that episode, when you are done with this one, I want you to backtrack, beep, 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 and go listen to Teacher Fired in the first 90 days, how they made a classroom come back, because that is my true story of my first year teaching. So again, I barely escaped my first 90 days as a first year teacher, still having a job. The old saying goes, hindsight is 2020. And I would say like round about my fifth year of teaching, I developed a classroom management strategy. And I didn't develop it because I'm just this super innovative teacher genius. But I actually came up with it because I was trying to be super lazy. So the more you stick around, I mean, the name of the podcast is Lazy Learning Land Podcast, because a lot of the things I learned to do because I wanted to be lazier, but still be a really effective teacher. And this is just one of those things. But anyways, I decided that I was sick and tired of being sick and tired of sounding like a broken record, having to constantly repeat majority of my classroom rules and procedures that mean the most to me. I call them my golden rules. So from this annoyment, which is not even a real word, but for me being annoyed by this, quite often, I birthed the concept of don't be a fool, post your classroom rules. A light bulb went off and I ended up typing each of my golden rules on their own PowerPoint slide. Now, I ain't gonna tell y'all how many years ago this was, but this was back when PowerPoint was like on and popping. It was like the hottest thing since sliced bread. But I typed them all up on their own PowerPoint slide, printed them out, and then I glued each slide to its own sheet of construction paper for like a background. And I stapled them at the front of my classroom, right above my whiteboards, right by my smart board for my students viewing, as I like to say, for my students viewing pleasure. Now, why should you post your classroom rules? Like, why is posting your classroom rules a game changer? Well, before I get into what my actual golden rules are, let me just break it down for y'all a little bit about why this was such a game changer. My students don't think that I'm lying to them or picking on them. And I save so much time when I am able to refer a student to rule number blank. Like literally I'll call a name and I'll be like, Sasha, rule number 7. It helps the revolving door of students that I get because I do number one, work in a secondary school, and two, I work in the hood. So I have a revolving door of new students. I lose students, I get students. And sometimes I get more students than I got space for, but that's a whole nother post. But anyways, when I get new students during the year, it's easier for them to learn what my expectations are from their first day entering my class. And posting the rules helps my students police other students. So I don't have to work as hard. Duh. So I just gave y'all like a brief overview of why it's a game changer, but I'm going to go into a little bit more detail about each one just in case you need a little bit more convincing. So I mentioned that it minimizes students thinking that you are picking on them. And really, a top reason why you should consider this strategy for more effective classroom management. Like I said, I work in the hood, y'all. These kids come with trauma and triggers out the wazoo. They are easily offended, and they tend to think that every time you are addressing them, redirecting them, they take it as direct criticism. They take it as an insult. They take it extremely personal. They take everything personal. So when I'm redirecting a student in regards to one of my golden rules, I'm able to literally point it out on the wall, and it instantly lowers their defenses. Since I obviously do not have flash speed to staple it on the wall in 0.2 seconds, the student is aware that what I am addressing with them is indeed a rule, and it is also a rule for everyone else. The funniest part to me, y'all, truly in real time, when I point to the rule on the wall, is to see that particular student's face and their body loosen up and become less tense. You literally get to see their defenses and their guard drop because they realize, oh shoot, she's really not picking on me. She's not teasing me. Oh, this really is a rule for everybody. Let me bring it down before I make a fool of myself. And another one. So posting your golden rules makes reviewing your classroom rules much easier, much faster, and much more effective. I save so much time by having these rules posted. The very first week of school, I review my golden rules directly off the front wall of my classroom, literally every day the first week of school. The second week of school, I also repeat them, not every day, kind of like every other day, because I do get multiple schedule changes. Again, I'm in the secondary, I'm in high school. So if you're in middle school or high school, you know those guidance counselors are changing schedules those first weeks of school. And it is really helpful to review the rules when we return after any break as well. That's more than 3 days. So if we have more than a 3-day break in my county, we get the full week of Thanksgiving off. We get 2.5 weeks off for the winter break. We get that full week for spring break. Look, when you step back in my classroom after a break that's more than a 3-day weekend, we're going over my golden rules because I got to make sure that, you don't come up in here making up your own rules, because I know you done had plenty of time to do what the heck you want to do, when you want to do it, how you want to do it, why you want to do it. But we got to hone it in because we got rules in here and expectation. So it makes it way easier, way faster to review those the first weeks of school, but also after those longer breaks. And truth be told, like in a Title I school, that roster is a revolving door. Students are constantly withdrawing, they're constantly enrolling, so on and so forth. So it's just really helpful to have that because it saves you time from having to sit there and give every new kid an orientation when they came on a day that you're supposed to be teaching a lesson. That's hard. That's hard. But whenever I do receive a new student, I go through the usual formalities of introductions, what I need them to do in my class that day. But after that, I tell them, hey, go ahead, take a moment, read these are my golden rules right here at the top of the board. They're posted right here. I need you to take a moment to read any of them. If you have any questions, ask me or a student that's sitting next to you, a classmate that's sitting by you. And sometimes I'll even assign them like a buddy partner, buddy system, buddy student, buddy classmate, to not only go over the classroom golden rules with them, but to help them kind of get acclimated for that day so that they can just kind of blend in a lot easier and not feel so uncomfortable. But either way, whether the student themselves is reading it or another student that's been in my class is helping them to get acclimated, it just makes that transition process so much easier. Now, we've talked about in some other posts, like what a perfect classroom looks like. And we've stated that in a perfect classroom, students are self-regulated. They regulate themselves and they regulate each other. And by posting your classroom rules, students will self-correct. I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I know I joke a lot. I know I be throwing jabs and stuff about certain things, but I legitimately have the medical condition of asthma. And so every breath I take is priceless. Having those classroom rules posted literally saves me breath that I cannot get back. All I have to do is call the student's name, say the rule number, maybe even point to it if I'm feeling spicy. And then I get to see that student turn their attention to the front of the room. By the time they look for the rule, read and process the rule, the student usually apologizes or says, "Okay, miss." That's an apology in the hood, if you didn't know. "Okay, miss." And then after that, they self-correct and class goes on. Hashtag goals, confrontation avoided, and the flow of the class is minimally interrupted. Point blank, period. How easy is that? Hit the easy button, right? Now, the other side to that is students redirect other students. My final reason that this is a game changer is that it allows students to police other students. And if the students policing the students, and the teacher don't have to police the students because the students is policing the students. You see what I'm saying? See how that works? Work smarter, not harder. Again, I'm probably more lazy than I am innovative, but my laziness inspires this innovation that I share with you today. Over time, I hear students telling other students, "Hey, raise your hand. That's rule number 4. Insert eye roll by the student that's policing the other student because they're aggravated because they just feel like you've been in this class long enough to know that, duh. The student that has been redirected, you know what? They just kind of fall into place because they realize, you know what? I am wrong. I am out of compliance. And there's no back and forth there. So the student to student redirection is endless and it happens throughout the entire school year. And it literally makes my job so much easier. It minimizes the broken record syndrome, at least in that department. So what are my classroom rules? All right, enough about why you should post your classroom rules at the front of your room, to be exact. But it is time to get into what are mine. So in a separate blog, I will go into more details in a separate blog, separate podcast, because I do both. I will go into detail about golden rules for the secondary classroom and the types of golden rules that you should have, like the structure and how you make each of those structures work for your personality type is your own thing. But I do talk about the different structured rules, like category of rules you should have. And then I go into detail about what mine are and why they are the way they are, just to give you guys a soundboard, a trampoline to kind of bounce ideas, take what you like and whatever. So again, look forward to that. It'll be called Golden Rules for the Secondary Classroom. For now, I'm just going to list the rules that I do have for my classroom. And by absolutely no means do you have to adopt mine. My personal preferences and my pet peeves are different from yours. So feel free to keep what applies and trash your denies. Again, keep what applies and trash your denies. Rule number 1, be on time. Number 2, no food or drink except water that is clear and doesn't fizz. And yes, I have to clarify that. Number 3, get all materials out and ready before the tardy bell. Rule number 4, raise a quiet hand for permission to speak or to get out of your seat. Number 5, you get 2, count them, 1, 2, you get 2 4-minute restroom passes each 9 weeks. Number 6, no use of personal electronics. Number 7, this classroom is a nap-free zone. Number 8, stay on task and talk on topic only. Number 10, attempt all problems assigned. Number 11, make a way, not an excuse. And number 12, respect yourself, respect adults, and respect your peers. In conclusion, don't be a fool. Post your classroom rules. So, overall, don't be a fool. Post your classroom rules is a must, y'all. It is a must. The amount of sanity you will be saving is definitely worth it. The reduction of sounding like a broken record is absolutely worth the little extra effort. When students know your redirection is not personal, that goes a long way in preventing flare-ups. When all you have to do is say a name and a rule number, that is efficient classroom management because you can do that in one breath and go back to your lesson. When you have new students and they are able to fall in line with the rest of the class effortlessly, and when you have students correcting other students, you are #winning at this classroom management game. But seriously, you don't have to take my word for it. Give it a try and see if it makes a difference in your classroom. Every teacher I have mentored up to this point swears by it, and I am confident you will too. And a little sidebar, if you happen to be looking for some secondary math activities that are risk-free, no grading, fully digital, color-changing feedback for your students, check out the Virtually I'm Possible Teachers Pay Teacher store. That's Virtually I'm Possible on Teacher Pay Teachers. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode of Virtually I'm Possible presents Lazy Learning Land podcast. Comment below your thoughts on Don't Be a Fool. Post your golden rules. Which of these reasons makes you want to try posting your golden rules the most? Which one of these reasons made the most sense and resonated with you? Since there is strength in lazy, be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to this podcast, my blog on virtuallyimpossible.net. Remember, no apostrophe. And our social media platforms. You can find us on TikTok at Lazy Learning Land, on Pinterest under Virtually I'm Possible, and Instagram virtually_I'm_possible. So you can feel at home among other lazy learners. Once again, this is your girl S.Dot signing off. And until next episode, remember to live long and lazy and never, ever, 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 ever work too hard.